Thank you, Doctor. Dr. Stiglitz, let me begin with a few more broad and general questions for you. First, does economic inequality itself have economic consequences? And what happens to those economic consequences as economic inequality worsens?
That's a great question. It used to be thought that there was a trade-off. Arthur Okun, who was chairman of the Council of Economic Advisors under President Johnson, wrote a book called The Big Trade-Off. And the argument then was that if you want to reduce inequality, you would have to accept lower growth. But that thinking has totally changed. And now we know that countries face a high price for inequality. The IMF studies have, and the IMF is not a left-wing institution, has shown that is the case. It was the central piece of my book called The Price of Inequality. One of the reasons for that is as you get more inequality, the adverse effects get worse, and we've had an increase in inequality. And the ways in which inequality has increased related to monopolization, financialization, also have adverse effects on the economy.
In the context of the harms that are driven by economic inequality, could you elaborate a bit on the extent to which our tax code actually contributes to economic inequality and hence to the economic evils that follow?
It contributes in several different ways that have already been highlighted. One of them is that it leads to increased financialization of the economy. The financial sector, in turn, has engaged in activities that, like predatory lending, but even apart from that, just increased debt leads to greater instability, and that instability, the brunt of that is borne by ordinary Americans, so it increases inequality. Our tax code encourages real estate speculation, provides preferential benefits for CEOs. We've already had a discussion of that. It taxes the very, very rich at a lower rate than it does working Americans. So these are just a few of the ways in which our tax code actually exacerbates the inequalities and creates structures which promote inequality.
And if we were to look at efforts to take advantage of those tax code failings and perhaps consider tax avoidance as an industry, how would you rank the size of the tax avoidance industry and its positive or negative contributions to society and the economy?
Tax avoidance industry has become a major global industry. It's partly a consequence of globalization. Globalization has expanded the scope for tax avoidance activities, and given an advantage to individuals and multinationals who operate in many countries because they can take advantage of these tax avoidance activities. They can afford the best tax lawyers who excel at tax avoidance. But one of the central points of my remarks, my initial remarks, was that those tax avoidance activities not only are taking away directly, that is to say, those tax lawyers are bright people, they could have been contributing to our economy, and instead they're trying to take money away from government, but they distort our economy. We have investments in real estate. We have investments in fossil fuel. We have investments in the financial sector that would not be there if our tax system hadn't actually encouraged those kinds of investments.
Thanks very much, Professor. I turn now to my distinguished ranking member, Senator Grassley.